we've got a bracket here. Go ahead. Aiden's going to take it out of there. Flip it over to the back side, and we want to take a look at the dross or carburized metal here. We're going to talk about how to finish this out properly. Now, in the case of this is still a test fit and we're testing the version of it, so it's more about fitment, then we don't have to finish this necessarily. But if we get to a product where we're like, yep, this one's good, I need to finish it out, then we're going to follow that process. Up here. So you want to find a piece of steel that's got quite a bit of mass to it, some weight, and a sharp edge to it. So something that's been cut clean. Any plate steel, square tubing like this will work. What we're going to do is we're going to chip off this dross. So come in really close here. This is something that if we grind it with the belt sander, it really eats up abrasives. That carburized metal right there is very brittle and it chews up the abrasives quickly. So we can just use something like this, a flat, to chip that off. Zoom in. And that is way more effective than grinding. Okay. That being said, it's not all going to come away with this process. And in this case, we're using a fine cut tip, so there really isn't much left here. I just chipped that one off right there. Try and get this one. There's really nothing in the corner there. It's where the plasma started. So we're doing pretty good that way. It's dirty, so let's wipe it down. We've got alcohol wipes to burn up. You could use paper towels and any kind of degreaser. In this case, these wipes work okay. They're not ideal for this, but they're going to get all of the oils, the major oils off of here. And even for test fitting, you know, unless we're really turn and burn and we just want to get on to the next one, it doesn't hurt to wipe these down. So getting it to this point of cleanliness before we test fit is not the worst thing. Ready? I'll take this. You recording? Already? So spray finishing, we're going to shoot in our booth here. This is exhausted out of the building, but we have to turn the exhaust on. The motor and the light switches are right over here. We can see how much air we are pulling here in inches on a water column. That's how it works. So it's basically how much air it's drawing. Now that we're on, we can go ahead and talk about finishing. I'm going to shut the vents off for the demonstration. Okay, so Aiden's at the step where he's got a version that functions. So he's tested this, he's now ready to spray finish. So what we're looking at here is we've got some corrosion on here, surface rust just from the bare metal sitting. We wiped it down once just because it had the initial grease on it to try and protect it from rusting, right? It's a good practice to wipe down your metal prior to plasma cutting because all of that yellow soot that we see in the room here, and that's where it comes from, is burning off all that oil. Well, now that we've got it ready to where we want to paint it, this is a good one. We're going to keep it. We've removed all of the dross. He's got a couple chunks here, maybe in the corner. We're ready to sand this. Well, what we're going to encourage you to sand with is what's called a red rag. This is a 400 grit Scotch-Brite pad. Scotch-Brite made by 3M America. It's aluminum oxide. That's the abrasive. 400 grit means it's very fine. Come over here and watch as I sand. I can sand through that surface rust, and because it's 400 grit, I'm not going to see my sanding strokes when I spray, but it is going to give a nice etched surface for that paint to grab onto. All of that right there is soot and carburized metal, and of course some mild steel that's coming off of there. So we're going to sand both sides here. Doesn't take long. A little bit of elbow grease, meaning we're using physical effort.
What's that, Schulte?
If we did our design right for a plasma cut, there shouldn't be much reason that we have to go over to the belt sander and soften our radius corners. But we will talk about that a little bit here just because we've got some metal in the corners here that can be touched up. So once I've got the surface sanded, and I can maybe do a little better job here, but I've got it scuffed up, okay? I need to wipe it down one more time before I can paint it. Do I need to hit these corners with the belt sander? Well, let's talk about that next. Oh, could have cut. Anyway, keep going. Belt sander 101. Eichler belt sander, made not only in America, St. Cloud, America, manufacturing hub of Minnesota. More products manufactured in central Minnesota than anywhere else in the state. This Eichler belt sander has been around since the 1950s. They've made thousands of them. They're awesome. On-off switch, safety glasses. We'll take care of belt alignment. The belts on here are very abrasive, 36 grit. And the reason is we don't want to keep replacing belts. So you do not want to sand a face surface here that you're going to spray with the belt sander because it's going to leave huge etch marks. Only edges and corners. When we sand edges and corners, we don't want to face a corner edge up into the wheel so that it can catch and kick back like a football at us, okay? We always want to sand kind of on the downstroke side, which just means if it grabs, it's just going to push it away. So I'm going to turn this on, come in close here on these corners. I just want to tune these corners up a little bit. Always moving. I'll hit that edge a little bit because it's sharp. Looking for any other corners or edges. There are some raised edges right here. Tough to get at. You can see that I caught those. Need to do that one a little bit more. This corner's got a burr on it or a sharp edge. I'm barely touching it and I can knock that down. I don't have to grind heavily. The backside edge is going to be sharp. If you can see that, there is a lip there. Can you feel it, Aiden? Feel that lip?
Yeah.
So we can still feel that dragging. So I'm going to hit that edge again at a 45-degree angle. Come in from here. 45-degree angle to the edge. Down and up. Feel it? Oh, yeah. No more sharp edge. Go this way, straight on, because it did feel like knife blade sharp. So I'm basically creating small chamfers on here, which are bevels, 45-degree bevels. And we don't have to do this all the way around, but it's just by feel. We can feel that these corners and edges are getting softened. Once you start, it's hard to stop. So now I've softened all my corners and edges. I still have a sharp surface here. Okay, good. I'm gonna wipe this down one more time and then we're ready for paint. Are you recording?
Yep.
Are you recording? The last part about this is applying our finish. So Mark has degreased his plates here. He has actually gotten them down to bare steel. We've got some fuzzies coming in close here. We've got some fuzzies that are hanging off here just from our sharp edges, so we can pick those because they will show up in our finish if it matters. The question is, should we primer these? If they are interior application, so in this case these are corner brackets for our Vex Arena, they're never going to corrode interior if we spray finish them without priming, okay? If they're exterior and it matters, then we'll primer and spray finish. If it really matters, we're going to send them off to get powder coated. How to spray these properly. Okay, we're hanging these parts so that we can get it all on all sides of them. We can rotate them easy enough with our fingers. Your fingers have oils on them, so once you wipe these down with a degreaser, which we've already demonstrated, then you want to not touch them as much as possible. You don't want to leave fingerprints or thumbprints on them. The can has a slug inside it. It's actually a chunk. It looks like a little miniature barrel. It's a chunk of round solid stock. It's the cheapest agitator they can put inside a can. You want to know how I know that? It's a long story. I figured it out as a kid. I can tell you the spray paint was gold. I tried to remove it with gas, and I got grounded for 2 weeks. So we want to agitate for at least 30 seconds. That's mixing everything in the can. Knowing this has already been shook, remove the cap. We want to hit our edges first, then our flats whenever possible. The reason is people spray the flats, they hit them so much they drip, and then they realize, oh, I don't have paint on the edges. They hit that more, and then they got a big mess. So I'm going to look at how to attack this. I'm going to hit it from the bottom first, backside edge, over the top, this way, and then I can rotate it. Bottom edge, oh, backside edge, top edge. And now that I've got all these edges finished, you'll notice it's actually almost all the way sprayed, but I've got my edges covered too. So now I can just 10 to 12 inches away, dust this surface. That's a first coat. It's called a tack coat. We don't want to hit it more than that or it will drip. If I can spin it around to the back side here, see if I can get it to rotate. Unhook. There we go. Same thing, I'll hit the edges a little bit, although the edges should be covered because I did those already. 10 to 12 inches away, I'm starting to spray before I hit it and going through it or passing through it. So I'm starting to spray here and then passing through it. Okay, with the 10 to 12 inches away, I can get a pretty nice even finish on this. Not bad for spray can. We don't have to make it look like it was spray canned. So I'm gonna let Mark shoot the second one. If it matters, I'm gonna give this 2 coats, which means I'll wait 10 minutes and then I will put a second or a finish coat on it. Always light, always hit the edges first, then just put a light coat on our surface. When we're done, if we're not using a can, invert it, because the pickup nozzle comes all the way up in here. We wanna spray until it runs clear. That's a long time. Normally it would run clear. And all that's doing is getting paint out of the spray nozzle. Put the cap back on so we know what color it is and it matches. This is our somewhat temperate storage. Should go in the yellow spray cabinet when we're done. Let that dry 24 hours and our application is completed. Scene. Ready?
Yep, recording.
The last part about this cleanup is our paint needs to be stored in a spray cabinet. It's a Marshall fire code issue to not have aerosols stored in a cabinet where they're protected from flame, fire, etc. So we have a cabinet in the back room. Anything that's labeled is generally spoken for. So if they're labeled Schulte, I'm using them for advanced engineering or robotics. Okay. Otherwise, spray cans on top. We got our cans in the middle of oil-based and spar urethane, etc. Random chemicals. And we do have propane stored in here. Again, that's flammable. Anything like this, we use some brake parts or carb cleaner sparingly. Again, it can go on shelves. No major order here. And make sure the doors are closed.
Recording.
Okay, so the last thing we have to talk about here is cleanup. And right now we're not assigning cleanup duties, but we are expecting that you don't leave a trail. Leave no trace is our model here. That doesn't mean get rid of the evidence, but it does mean I left a literal trail around this room. This was me. This was me chipping off dross. The red rags can get put into the baking rack for now. That's a place where we can store them. And our paper towels, which are usually evidence of wiping down, all of those need to get trashed. Do not leave them on a table where we have sparks flying around, right? Naturally flammable. Let's take a look at our spray cabinet as well. Where did I get this from? Usable scrap. So where could I get one tomorrow if I need to chip material? They're all over the place. Right? We just need a flat solid surface. In the process of installing our storage racks right now, so it's a little messy here, but I got this out of our usable scrap bin. Let's take a look at the spray cabinet and see how we're doing over there. So usually it ends up like this. People's projects who they didn't spray yet, our parts hanging, we have to let these dry. All of these should go back into our yellow spray cabinet. So let's take a trip. If they're empty, what do we do? Oh, this is fun. Most of these have spray in them yet, so we'll get there, but let's talk about empties. If you do this wrong, you will get paint on you. You do not do this with a can that has any paint in it, because that will end badly as well. You got to find a sharp corner, an area where you can stay away. So I'm going to puncture it on this sharp corner here. You can hear the air let out of it. Once it's done, it's recyclable. That goes into the steel bin. Okay, same thing with this one. And done. If there's any paint in it, it will blow back on you. You can see on my fingers, I got black paint on my fingers just from that process. Comes out of the can. In there, these go into the garbage. See?